This episode of The Energy Show is proudly sponsored by Sunlight and Power, the Bay Area's leading commercial and residential solar contractor. SLP has been designing and installing photovoltaic, battery backup, and solar thermal solutions since 1976. Help fight climate change. Go solar with Sunlight and Power today.
So, you want to save the world with clean energy? Make money doing it? Confused about the economic and technical realities of residential and commercial solar, batteries, heat pumps, EVs? Want the real-world scoop on new energy technologies, not manufacturer hype? Then tune in to the Weekly Energy Show, hosted by Barry Cinnamon. Insights from Barry's 40-plus years in the solar and energy industry will help you understand the future ways we'll generate and consume energy. And now, here's Barry.
Welcome to this week's Energy Show. Now, you probably already know this, but if you're in California, the electric utilities are ripping you off, and it's legal. Home electric rates continue to increase at about 10% per year. And very simply, like any business, the profits of that business go up when prices go up. PG&E's profits in 2023 were a record $2.3 billion for the year. And it's up even more to almost $2.5 billion in 2024. Now, here's how they do it. And keep in mind, utilities, most electric utilities are not normal businesses. Utilities, on the other hand, get a guaranteed 10% rate of return on all their assets. Now, those assets are power plants, poles, transmission lines, fancy buildings. So the more assets they build, the more profits they get automatically. And then those higher profits are recovered automatically in higher electric rates. The California government lets them raise rates to meet that 10% profit target. And the way this could be pulled back is if the California government said, well, you don't need all those poles and transmission lines and assets and power plants because there's other ways to get that power cheaper. But the California government doesn't do that. So regardless of how much electricity PG&E and the other utilities sell, they get the same profits. And here's what's really completely bizarre. If we use less electricity, if ratepayers throughout the state use less electricity, since the utilities still get a guaranteed profit, they get to automatically raise rates even more. So they get their guaranteed profits no matter what happens. Nice work, if you can get it. It's a bizarre kind of a business, and it's basically permitted by the California government because they're not regulating the utilities. Now, these high rates and guaranteed utility profits won't stop anytime soon. But you can be energy independent and escape this utility rate increase trap. But there's only two options to get away from that. The first, use much less electricity. Most people don't want to do that. Most people want to use their air conditioner and not sweat like crazy in the summer. Now, the second thing you can do is install your own power plant on the roof with rooftop solar combined with a battery system. There's really only those two things you can do. So, kind of looking at the data over the years, and I've been tracking electric rates, it's just amazing that utilities get away with this. They lie through their teeth regularly every year when they say rates aren't going to go up or the rate increase is going to slow down. It's a sad situation. And the California government and most other state governments are not helping. And you kind of scratch your head and wonder why, like our government, our governor, our legislators aren't acting to rein in out of control utility spending. The reason is pretty simple. It's money in politics. So utilities and their IBEW union make enormous contributions to California politicians. As a result, our government and the regulators hired by our government consistently vote in favor of higher electricity rates. Now, it's interesting, not only do they approve the higher rates, but they approve the ability for the utilities to continue to spend like drunken sailors on more and more assets. And so you kind of backed into the corner. They have more assets, so they must increase rates. What our government should be doing is saying, hey, we don't need all those poles and wires and transmission lines and power plants. It's so much cheaper to put solar on the local schools, on local parking lots, on homes. If you're curious about how this whole system is rigged, you should check out the Solar Rights Alliance. I encourage you to join them. It's free. You'll get a lot of great information from them. So we're going to show a link below to get to the Solar Rights Alliance. But let's kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about specifically how solar will save you a lot of money. And it's kind of tricky because of the way that rates go during the day and the evening. So this graph shows how solar works on a typical home to slash your electric bill. That curvy red line is your home's daily electricity consumption. There's a bump up in usage in the morning when people wake up and make their coffee during breakfast. And then the usage typically goes down when people are at work or the kids are at school. And then the usage in the home goes up again in late afternoon and evening when the family's home, you're cooking, you're heating, you're cooling, you're doing things like that. And then it goes down again at night when everybody's asleep. Now, below that red curved line, that yellow section is what we call self-consumption. That's when, during the day, the solar generation meets all of the usage that your home needs. Above that red line, that green section, is excess power that the house doesn't need. Your solar system's putting out more power than you need in the house right now. And the way it works automatically is that excess power is sent back to the utility because there's nowhere else for it to go. But now here's the trick. The utilities, like PG&E, they set rates to maximize their profits and penalize solar homeowners. So when you have excess solar during the day, they only credit you a couple of cents when you send power back to the grid. You send that power back to the grid, it doesn't go very far. It goes to your neighbor. And then they charge full retail price for that power. So they buy for a couple cents. They're selling it to your neighbor and making a lot of profit on it. But here's the thing. In the late afternoon and the evening, they charge the highest amount for power that you're stuck to buy from them because that's when you need most of that power. And there's no sun. The peak rates on the electric rates that I'm on, it's about 66 cents a kilowatt hour from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So bottom line, you're forced to buy power from the utility at high rates and sell back at low rates if you have just a standard solar system. Don't have to be a financial guru to see that buying high and selling low is a total ripoff. But here's why batteries are so popular right now. By combining solar with a battery, you avoid this buy high and sell low utility ripoff. And basically what happens is your battery is storing excess power during the day, and then you can deplete that battery, use that energy in the battery for your own power at night. So you don't have to pay 66 cents or more for energy between 4 and 9 or later in the evening. You can use your own battery power. And you don't have to be ripped off by the utility by basically giving the power back. Store it in your battery and use it in the evening. And then the other benefit of batteries, and this is a really popular option for our customers, is you have backup power because the utility grid is not as reliable as it used to be. I don't know why. They're spending so much money. They're basically not doing maintenance. Plus, with a battery, you can have backup power for the next time there's a utility blackout. It's quite ironic to me that utilities are spending so much money. They say they're investing in the grid, but we have more and more blackouts now than we ever did before. So that battery that saves you money during the evening because you're using your own energy can also give you backup power either for your whole home or for critical loads in your house. Depends on how you design the system. So here's what you can do. To borrow a phrase, you're fired, PG&E. With solar and a battery, you can save your daytime generated electricity and run your house from your battery at night. And you'll save even more if you electrify your home. It's just amazing to me when you look at the economics and the efficiency. Heat pumps that can heat and cool your home, they operate at a 350% efficiency during heating. Way more efficient than a gas furnace. And since they're using variable speed compressors as new equipment, way more efficient than that standard old-fashioned noisy air conditioner. And kind of taking a step further, looking towards the future, it's easy to be almost completely energy dependent from your utility. You can even go off-grid if you get power from your electric vehicle. There's a few vehicles that do that, and we've tested it. It works really well. So you can do this. But don't wait for the dog days of summer when it's really hot and you're going to be looking at, it could be $1,000 electric bill during a particular month. And don't wait because the federal government is considering to eliminate the 30% solar tax credit at the end of 2025. So if your system is done in 2026, you're not going to get that 30% tax credit. That's a lot of money. So the time to install solar and a battery is right now. Contact your local solar company that is doing this work. Find somebody that's got a great reputation. And I encourage you to move on this right now because you're going to be unhappy if you wait to 2026. That's all the time we have on this week's Energy Show. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in. And if you missed any of today's show, you can always go to our website at energyshow.biz and listen to the podcasts.
This episode of The Energy Show was proudly sponsored by Sunlight and Power, the Bay Area's leading commercial and residential solar contractor. SLP has been designing and installing photovoltaic, battery backup, and solar thermal solutions since 1976. Help fight climate change. Go solar with Sunlight and Power today.